Hello everyone, how you doing? Welcome to this webinar on behalf of the TEFL org. My name is Carl. I'm an English as a foreign language teacher, English as a foreign language teacher trainer. I'm also an English as a foreign language examiner. And I've been working in this field of TEFL for about, coming up to about 20 years now. Now, we do a series of these webinars here at the TEFL org on a range of different topics. Today, we're going to be talking a bit about managing mixed age classrooms. But this is a live webinar. So anything that you might type, whether you're watching on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, whatever it is might be, whatever you type, any questions, any points you make will come up on my screen and hopefully I can answer them for you. Perhaps you're thinking about becoming a TEFL teacher. Well, if you've got any questions about courses, I can direct you towards one that you might end up doing. Maybe you've been teaching a while and you've got a question about a particular group of students you've got. Please do put it in the chat, because the more questions that go on, the better. Here at TEFL org, we are a teacher training company. We help people to become EFL teachers. So if you want any more information on any of the courses we run, please do go to TEFL.org. Right, I work in Northern Ireland, where I work, as I said, on a range of different things within TEFL. But let us know where you are in the world. It's always good to hear where people are. I can see people. Elizabeth's already said hello. She even said hello before it started. Who's over in Canada? But please do let us know where you are. And you never know, you might find a new TEFL friend around the corner from you in the chat box. Right, let's get going. So as I said, this is a range of different, we do webinars on a range of different topics. Today we're talking about mixed age classrooms. So let's talk a bit about, I'm just going to put a quick question. Have you ever taught any mixed age classes? So have you ever taught maybe a kids class where you've got a range of different ages in it? Or have you taught an adults class where there's a big range of them as well? Please do let us know in the chat what the biggest sort of range in one class you've had of students. And what's the youngest and what's the oldest? So tell us, did you have like a 5-year-old with a 9-year-old, for example? Did you have a 17-year-old with an 8-year-old? My biggest range, I think, was I've had 17-year-olds and I've had I had a gentleman who was 74, I think, in the same classroom. So that was sort of a range of about 50 odd years. So that's been the biggest range that I've had. Right. So what am I going to talk about today? I'm going to talk a little bit about the typical challenges that might come through from teaching mixed age classes. I'm going to give you some strategies to try and help you get through them. Going to talk about how to differentiate tasks efficiently, and also discover ways to manage the energy levels and to maintain the engagement as well. And then finally, going to talk about building confidence within diverse age groups. Thank you. Please, I can see some people saying hello and telling me about some different ranges of ages they've got. Please do put them in the chat. Right, so first of all, what do we mean by mixed age? So basically, it's when you've got like a significant age gap between learners. So, if you've got some 22-year-olds and some 29-year-olds, not really that significant an age gap. But, if you're talking, as I had, a range of about 50 years, that's quite a significant age gap. But within sort of mixed age, and I'm kind of just going to group these together, is you might have sort of different developmental stages. So people can be at different stages of their life, different development in a range of different things. It could be mental ability, cognitive ability, but it could also sort of be differential development stages in terms of career, in terms of families, that kind of thing. And also sort of varying cognitive, so as I said, sort of ability, but not just sort of like ability in terms of like your grammar or your vocabulary, but just like in your ability to process information, your ability to handle certain tasks, socially and also emotionally as well. You can have that, and that could come with age, but it could also just come, you could have sort of a 21-year-old who is quite different in terms of their social needs compared to a 22-year-old who sat next to them. It sort of depends on their life. Different, and alongside mixed ages, you probably get different interests, different motivations. You might need to put some different pacing in your class or because of what they expect or what they want and what you need. So you could have, people that want sort of quite quick, fast activities, whereas people that sort of might want to take a little bit more time on each of their activities. Now, alongside mixed ages, you've got sort of mixed levels, mixed motivation. Now, we've done webinars where we talk about mixed levels, and we've done webinars where we talk about mixed motivation. And there is some overlap between them. Right, so mixed age classes basically have sort of different developmental stages. That's something to sort of keep in mind. And they might have different attention spans, they might have different maturity, they might have different interests within them. And now you might get this just in a normal class. You can have people with different interests within a teenage class, for example. But if you do have mixed age classes, it does become generally a bit more apparent. Now, what do they need? They generally need some routines. They need some good pacing that's suitable for that class, basically. And they tend to need some age sensitive tasks. And I'm going to go into these in a bit more detail. Now, the difference between mixed age and mixed level is basically different abilities in language or different abilities in a certain language skill. And what they need is different linguistic challenges. They're not necessarily looking for sort of different pacing or different age sensitive tasks. What they're looking for in a mixed level class is different linguistic challenges. And there's different ways of doing that. And then finally, mixed motivation. Basically, they have different reasons for learning. Now, it could be that, their company has paid for them to be there, so they've got to go. It could be that they're really motivated to get an English qualification. It could be that their parents have paid for it and that's their motivation. So you can have different motivation for learning. And alongside that, you sort of get different engagement level. Motivated students tend to engage better than unmotivated students. And so basically, what do they need? They need to be shown the relevance. The class needs to be shown the relevance and the meaningfulness of tasks. So while you might have some overlapping, you might have mixed age people with different mixed motivation. You might have mixed motivation classes alongside mixed level within one group. Basically, just sort of keep it in mind, and you'll know from looking at your class what the difference is and what's needed. Right, so when might you have mixed ages? So as I said, in adult classes, generally, a school generally starts the adult classes at 18. Now, I have worked in schools where they start the adult classes at 16. But then basically, there's no sort of upper age limit. I've had students in their 80s. I've not had any students in their 90s. But, so what you could have within that class is maybe an 18-year-old and maybe an 80-year-old. Now, the upper end is quite rare, I would say, but it does definitely happen. And kids' classes are not generally universally grouped. So what you might have with kids' classes, hopefully, is something like the school will put the kids that are aged 4 to 7 together. Then they'll have another class which is 7 to 10. Then have another class that's 11 to 14, and then another class that's aged 14 to 18. So generally, big schools will do this. However, if it's a smaller school or it's a school that's maybe quite new, they might not have enough students to fill a 4 to 7-year-old class. So what they might do is sort of open it up a bit and go ages 4 to ages 8 or ages 9. And then they might do a 9 till 13-year-old, and then they might do a 13-year-old to 18-year-old. It sort of does depend on the school. There's no universal sort of way of doing it. Now, obviously, if you've got a 4 to a 7-year-old, a 4-year-old has sort of quite different cognitive abilities, quite different levels of maturity than a 7-year-old. And even sort of once you get to this age, 14 to 18, a 14-year-old can be a lot less mature than an 18-year-old. Now, I'm very much generalizing there. I've got a 10-year-old girl myself who sometimes acts like she's 100 years old. She's quite mature for her age, but I know some of her friends that act a lot like 7-year-olds. So it really does sort of depend within the group, the sort of students that you have. Now, so basically, while these numbers might seem small, you might think, okay, there's only 3 years or 4 years between them. Within those 3 or 4 years, there can be quite big differences within. Thank you for saying hello, everyone. Good to see people. We've got some people in from South Africa, which is lovely. Got some people in from Thailand. We don't often get many people in from Thailand, so that's good. Canada, some people in from the UK as well. Lovely to see you all and say hello. Right, so some common challenges that come from mixed age classes. Different attention spans is generally the quite a normal thing, you know. Again, generalizing because people are individuals, but you know, someone that has a younger person generally has probably a less of an attention span than an older person. But then once you sort of get a bit older, it can make it a little bit harder for you to concentrate. So keeping and knowing about different attention spans is important. A different varied maturity, different varied classroom behavior, sort of expectations of what is expected in the class. Lots of different interests, you know, so some, you know, let's say me aged 45 has probably different interests from someone aged 18 or 19. Now, we might have similar interests in terms of sort of music, but within music, you know, I'd quite like to know more about the history of Bruce Springsteen, whereas somebody else might prefer to like the history of, I don't know, Taylor Swift or I don't know, some sort of latest rapper or something like that. So within a group, you can have divergent interests and also different cultural references. You know, I might think more about things in history that happened sort of in my lifetime. I can think back a little bit more. I might not necessarily know what's going on currently. And we have different cultural references. So it can be a little bit of a challenge to bring up topics that everybody likes. Different processing speeds as well. You know, someone who is a little bit older might take a little bit longer, need to read things a couple of times. Someone that's younger might be able to get that a bit more quickly. Different power dynamics. I just realized I'm sort of sounding like I'm having to go at old people, but I'm not at all. It's just the way different people are. A different power dynamics. So again, this varies much on culture, but a younger person might not want to speak up so much in terms of classes where there's lots of older people. And an older person might not like to be paired with a younger person, or a younger person might not like to be paired with an older person. Different sort of power dynamics and how it works. So what you need to get hold of and what you need to be sort of aware of is sort of differentiation techniques. So to deal with any of the things that I just spoke about on the slide before, you're looking for different tasks, and you might need to simplify or you might need to extend the tasks. And this could do with, you know, people that finish more quickly. It could deal with people that sort of aren't really willing to get on this task because they don't find it that interesting. Whereas someone who finds it really interesting might take their time and do it, you know, to a quite high level. Whereas someone who doesn't necessarily, they might just do it as quickly as they can to get it over and done with. So you then might need to give them an extension task to try and make it go a little bit longer. You could do it by outcome. So what I mean by that is not giving them maybe something else to do, like another question, but you could, for example, get them to speak longer. You could get them to write more words. You could get them to add a different paragraph, an extra paragraph, or more sentences. Or complexity, you know, you could get them to sort of combine two ideas, combine different grammar tasks, that kind of thing. Giving them different sort of lengths and complexity is important. By support, so, you know, if someone's processing speed is a little bit slower, you might want to give them some sentence starters to help them get going. Or if someone who processes things quite quickly, you might want to give them an open prompt to try and get them to think more and to try and get them going more. You might want to go about grouping them. You can mix their abilities or mix their motivations or mix their processing speeds. Or you might want to get all the people with the same motivation or same process speed to work together. People who like the same topics, get them working together so they can sort of talk about that. They have the similar cultural references, get the different other people, get them all working together. And then every now and again, you want to mix it up, I would say. So grouping strategies. One one of the good things about mixed age groups is it does promote peer teaching. If you've got students that are open to it, they can be taught by the younger ones, or they could be taught by the older ones, or or vice versa, or they might sort of work together to try and do something more quickly than the younger group that's over there. So it does promote peer teaching, and you can get involved with that, and it can help you to keep the class going. So just sort of on that is that you could sort of go down the same age or the same maturity groups. So basically you could sort of think, right, okay, I'm going to talk a bit about music today. I'm going to do one reading task over there for modern music, and I'm going to do one reading task over there for older music. But you then might find that the older students want to learn about the younger ones, or the younger ones want to learn about the older ones. You never know. So again, you got to sort of go with your gut on this and what you think. But it does allow you to maybe do more targeted tasks for that. Now, the problem with this is it can mean that you get more planning. But however, once you sort of planned it once, that would be it. And you can sort of think, right, okay, this is a good task for if I've got mixed age groups again in the future. AI can also help you a bit with this sort of thing. And then sort of rotate the grouping style. So sometimes do same age, sometimes do different ages, sometimes do same maturity. Don't just sort of always think, right, let's keep all the mature ones over there together, the more mature ones over there, and all the less mature ones over there together. I would mix it up a bit and try and rotate the grouping styles. And then you can also sort of think about giving structured roles. So, to avoid power dynamics, you could give the youngsters more responsibility in terms of being the group leader, and that allows them to not be so dominant, not be dominated so much by older ones, maybe. Another thing to be aware of is different energy levels. So what can you do with that is vary the pace of activities. Within kids classes, 14-year-olds tend to have a bit more energy maybe than 18-year-olds. So you might want to vary the pace, have some quick, fast activities, and also some slow activities. Build some movement into the lessons, getting them up, getting them walking around. You can also do this with adults classes as well. Allow optional extension tasks. So if you've got fast finishers, get different sort of tasks in where they work together to try and get something done. Like by increasing the length, as I said, or giving them an extra reading task or something like that. If you've got different ages with kids classes, try and use signals. So, don't be afraid to put your hand up, or to sort of, point to something, or get in a bit of body language in there as well, to show the younger ones that this is now the time to concentrate and to go on to things. This can really, really help you to manage energy levels. Right. Different classroom routines, different expectations. So when you've got mixed age classes, whether it's adults or kids, have clear behavior expectations. Let them know what you expect them to do in the class in terms of good behavior. And you can do that with things like a contract at the start of the class. So at the start of the term, you could do that with reward charts, things like that. You can do that with adults as well, reward charts, but definitely with kids, it's the sort of thing you might want to look about going down there. Having consistent routines with kids classes especially can really help. If the top age of the kids group, it knows what's going to happen, and the bottom age knows exactly what's going to happen, they might know how long they've got to do it. There might be timers on the wall that you've got going around. If they know that this sort of thing is going to happen at a certain time or finish at a certain time, that can help their behavior to stay to a good level. Schedules in terms of on the board writing what you're going to be doing, that can really, really help, especially with adults classes. They tend to like that. Timers, knowing how long they are expected to do it, and to let them know that also it's not just a rush to get it done. It's something that you want to try and fill the time and plan your time well within something. And then try and teach some autonomous skills as well. Let the whole of the class know that they can look up things by themselves, or they can work together, or they can find the information from someone else. It's not necessarily that you are going to be totally in charge of the class, that they can help themselves and help each other as well. So adapting materials is sort of quite an important thing about mixed ages classes, because you might adapt it to fit different maturity levels or different topics, that kind of thing. There are certain topics that are generally quite universal. The three main ones are food, travel, and hobbies. Generally, all ages like talking about all of these. So having these sort of three main topics, and within those, there's lots of subtopics. There are food from their own country, food from other countries, how to prepare food, how to eat out, that kind of thing. Travel, talking about past, talking about present, talking about future. There's lots of different ways. Worldwide travel, European travel. Hobbies as well is a big wide range of topic, but generally talking about these can keep them going together. And then you sort of can add layers of challenge within that, talking about the future or hypotheticals, that kind of thing can really, really help to do different maturity levels. If you've got younger kids within a kid group, definitely keep a lot of visuals up there. Getting the visuals on the pages, that can really, really help with keeping the motivation going and keeping the understanding going, keeping the focus. Try to simplify language, but not content. So try and keep the topics culturally about the same sort of level, as in don't dumb it down too much, the type of content that you're doing. But what you might end up doing to help the different maturity levels within the class is simplifying the language. So you might have, you could have simpler questions, you could have simpler texts, you could have different times and that kind of thing. Right. Open-ended tasks are definitely your friend if you've got mixed age groups. So picture description. So, put a picture down, describe with your friend. Some might describe what exactly they could see in terms of specific nouns. Some might go into more sort of ability of what happened before or what's about to happen. So really sort of have a think about what you can do with pictures. Pictures can really, really make a difference. And story creation can help. It tends to be, something that younger people prefer to do maybe than older people, creating stories. But complexity of stories, length of stories, all this sort of thing can help with different maturity levels. And also mixing groups sizes, group ages there can help. Opinion sharing, generally opinions are open-ended. It's not just like filling in a blank, it's talking about it and expressing yourself. Lots of opinion tasks can really, really help. Drawing and labeling. So, all ages tend to like to draw, or there's adults maybe a bit more wary of doing it, but having some sort of drawing tasks in there can help the youngsters. And then labeling, you could even get one to draw it while another one labels what they see or writes down what they see. That sort of thing can help. Another activity is stations. So you could have, so this is like a reading stations where you could have different types of cultural readings around a classroom, and they walk around, work together, try and answer some questions. This can sort of help them to, and you might find that some groups really like this one but not so keen on that one, and you work together and they help each other to finish that. Different vocabulary games. Vocabulary seems to be a good leveler with groups. Everybody likes to play some games and everybody likes to work on their vocabulary. Different speaking tasks in terms of opinions, or in terms of sort of structured groups. You can have this sort of thing which will really help you with the maturity levels. Different writing challenges in terms of writing about themselves, writing about hypotheticals, working to do with the maturity level that they have can really, really help there. Try and get lots of projects in. That's good for different age ranges. It's good because It allows them to express themselves in what they want to. So doing something like a class newspaper, and you get all the groups together that's maybe into sport, and you get all the groups together that's maybe into, I don't know, news, and they work together to create something that allows them the freedom to talk about what they want to talk about. Writing a mini book, working together to write a mini book can really, really be a nice, good thing to do. Doing presentations about aspects of their own culture. And, you would find that the younger ones talk about something that's important to them, whereas the older ones maybe talk about things that are important to themselves. So everybody can then talk about their own thing, which allows them to be a bit more open. Classroom surveys, getting them to think of questions that they want to ask the other members of the class, and then reporting back on those. Again, that allows them to express themselves a bit in what they want to do. Right, behavior management. So you've got to have universal rules basically within the classroom. You can't have one rules for the old ones and one rules for the youngsters. You've got to have, if you like, in terms of whether they're allowed to speak in the L1, what technology they're allowed to use, you've got to have universal rules, and you've got to do that. You can't have rules for one and rules for the other. Definitely reinforce positive behavior, as much as you can. Don't just go after the bad behavior. Reinforce the positive behavior, because that can really, really help to get the to keep the behavior levels high within a class, and also keep motivation. And non-verbal signals as well with kids is a really good way of dealing with things. Be a bit wary of your instructions with mixed age classes. Are your instructions too long? Are your instructions too short? That kind of thing. Keep them clear. And, if you find that there's youngsters that want to have some responsibility in the class, give them a bit of responsibility. If you found that there's some older ones that don't really want responsibilities in the class, don't. So in terms of being in charge of groups, being in charge of handing out things, that kind of thing can really, really help to improve the behavior of one group and not the other. Motivation. Support the motivation as much as you can by offering choices in terms of tasks, offering them choices in terms of text, that kind of thing. Connect the tasks to real life. This can really, really help to build motivation within a whole group. Show their progress by, giving them good concrete feedback, whether that's online feedback or, just face to face. Explain to them how they have improved as well as what they need to improve. All wins, celebrate them. If you've got some students that haven't really said much before, and all of a sudden they've started talking, celebrate those wins. Right, what are some of the potential problems that you could have? Fast finishers is one of the big issues. So what do you do if you've got a load of fast finishers? You basically offer extension activities that ask for opinions. Give them a worksheet. They do it too quickly. Right. Okay. Right. Okay. Now speak to your partner about this, or Carl, go over and talk to David about this, and let the two fast finishers talk about this kind of thing. Extension activities, have them in the bag or in your mind. What you're going to do can really, really help with fast finishers. The younger students are getting noisy compared to the older students. Check your routines for downtime. So what do I mean by that? I mean, check your routines that they're kind of always doing something. Maybe, don't give them too much opportunity to be noisy. Make sure they've got some routines to keep going. And also sort of have more activities. Maybe your pacing of your lesson is too slow and you need to keep the pace up within the group. Right. So mixed ages does give you the opportunity to work together, to do lots of peer learning, peer teaching. It's a really, really good way of doing this. And having the same activity and different entry points can also be quite useful. So by different entry points, I mean, in terms of ability, or also in terms of sort of whether they have an open-ended entry or whether you've given them guidance, that can help with mixed ages. Having different structure, having the similar structure, similar routines within a class can help with kids' classes, especially if you've got like a range of 4 to 5 different years within one. Differentiation can go a long way. Giving them different opportunities to do things can be useful. And keep the motivation of your whole class with variety. Keep the motivation of your class with lots of different choice. Thank you very much. Okay. Right. Thank you for everybody that's tuning in. Everybody that said hello. It's really nice to have seen some of those. As I said, this is live. So if you do have any questions at all, please do put them into the comment section. Right, we've got a question here from Mike. I don't think I'll be able to highlight that one, but let me see. Mike says he wants to get into TEFL. He's not quite sure. He's thinking about doing it next year. Right, so right, first of all, Mike, you know, you're on the right channel for this. We have lots of TEFL stuff, and I've done webinars where I talk about getting into TEFL and different types of courses. Right, first thing you need to do is go on our website, tefl.org, see if you can get any different types of the courses that we offer on there. Now, have a little think about what you want to do with your course. So what you want to do with your TEFL life. Do you want to go abroad? Do you want to teach online? There's never really a wrong time or a right time to start. Just sort of now is probably the right time to start. That's what I'm saying. You can do the course, but then don't think, right, I'm going to do the course now and then, but I'm not actually going to teach till next year. That's fine. You know, take your time on it and just take the time over and learn slowly. The key number to go for is a 120-hour course. If you've got an accredited 120-hour course, that is the number that you're looking for, because that will get you jobs either online or get you jobs working face-to-face. And then once you sort of started doing the course, you know, you're enjoying it, then sort of think about the type of destination you might want to go to. Oslem, can we take a PDF about the session? We don't offer PDFs on this, I'm afraid. No, we don't offer anything to download. If you go to our website, as I said, we've got like blog pages on there, and we can also have lots of information. You can also email us about anything else that we have there. Paul has asked about, I'm just going to scroll up and say that. Yeah. How do you deal with if you are quite different age from your students? Right. So that is obviously, firstly, most apparent with kids classes. You know, I once at the ages when I was sort of, let me think about this. I was probably about 28, 29, was teaching 4-year-olds in Sri Lanka. And obviously there's a big difference there. Right. How do you deal with it? Basically, you've got to think a little bit about them. Also have a little bit of a think about what you might, the students might, what you might have learned at their age, because there's probably crossover between what you learn and what you need to teach. So if you've got quite, you know, really young kids, you know, think about sort of, they like to dance, they like to sing, and you've probably got to do stuff like that in the classroom. And, you know, sort of think, you know, maybe if it's sort of teenagers, they probably don't like singing, they probably don't like dancing, but what they probably do like talking is about like cultural things. So you've got to sort of get yourself to the level of what they would be. Now, I remember when I first started teaching, I had quite a lot of people that were sort of quite a bit older than me. And you know, sort of when I was sort of 22, 23, I had some students that were sort of 60. I actually personally found that more of a difficult than teaching kids at the start. But what I saw, the number one thing to do is to ask them, what do they like to learn about? What do they want to learn about? Do something called a needs analysis, find out what sort of topics they want, find out sort of what their goals are. And you teach towards that, basically. That will then allow you to keep the motivation. And you will find that you quite enjoy it because you're learning about new things. You're thinking about the world in a different way. But needs analysis there with adults is useful. With kids, you don't need to do a needs analysis because it'll just be the curriculum. It's more the way that you teach there, depending on the age you're teaching. Thank you, everyone. There were some interesting questions. I did enjoy those. And thank you for everybody that said hello as well. As I said, on our website, we've got lots of information, tefl.org. On our YouTube channel, we've got all of these live webinars that we've done on a range of different topics. So please do go on that one, have a look. If you type into YouTube at the top, TEFL.org in the search, you'll see lots of different videos, not just me, on a lots of different range of topics. We've also got a Facebook group, like a Facebook discussion group as well, where you can say hello on that. You know, we've got information on LinkedIn. We've got information all over the place. Thank you very much, everybody, for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed that. Have a good morning, afternoon, or evening wherever you are. We'll see you again soon.